The chamber was silent, yet the silence felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Dozens of alien mercenaries sat around a long metallic table, their armor scratched and their faces dark with unease. These were warriors who had fought countless battles across the stars. They had crushed colonies, burned cities, and shattered fleets. But tonight none of them spoke with pride. Tonight fear filled their eyes. At the center of the table stood Commander Veyrak, a scarred veteran whose voice normally carried the weight of authority. His armor still bore the marks of past battles, each scar a memory of victory, yet now his tone was different. It was not the sound of a conqueror. It was the sound of a man warning others of death itself. "We do not fight humans," he said slowly, each word sharp as a blade. "Not anymore." The others stirred uneasily. Some shifted in their seats, others let out low growls of disbelief. A younger mercenary slammed his fist against the table, his voice dripping with arrogance. "They are fragile, weak, their bodies break easily. Why should we fear them? Why should we turn down credits because of them?" Murmurs spread across the chamber. Many agreed. It seemed foolish to walk away from a contract, especially when the pay was good. Humans were small compared to the towering lizard warriors, slower compared to the fast insectoids, and nowhere near as strong as the giant brutes who fought for gold. By all logic, humans should have been easy prey, and yet the silence of the veterans said otherwise. Commander Veyrak leaned forward, his eyes glowing under the dim light. "You see weakness," he said, pointing a clawed finger at the young mercenary. "But you do not understand what weakness hides. I have fought humans. I have seen their soldiers with my own eyes. They are not like us. They do not fight for credits. They do not fight for honor. They fight for something else, and it makes them more dangerous than you can imagine." Another mercenary, older and missing one arm, spoke with a deep growl. "I lost 3 squads to a dozen human soldiers. 3 squads. His voice cracked with memory. They did not face us directly. They disappeared into the shadows. They struck from places we did not expect. One moment we were marching with strength in numbers, the next, we were hunted like animals. The young mercenary's grin faded. Across the table, another veteran added, "You think humans are weak because their bones break. You are wrong. Their strength is not in their bodies. It is in their minds. They adapt. They change their strategy even while bleeding. No 2 battles against them are the same. When you fight them once, you are already too late to learn." Whispers grew louder, but still there was no laughter, no arrogance. Instead, the shadows in the room felt darker, as though the very mention of humans called something dreadful into being. Commander Veyrak raised his hand, and the voices quieted. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "Then you will understand." The room grew still again. Every eye turned toward him. "It was a simple contract," he began. "We were hired to crush a human outpost on the edge of the Orion sector. The payment was rich. We thought it would be easy. A colony defended only by their special forces, perhaps a few hundred soldiers. Against us, over 1,000 trained mercenaries. Heavily armed, heavily armored. We expected victory in hours." He paused, his gaze distant as if reliving the nightmare. "The first night they came. We never even saw them at first. Only heard screams in the dark. A patrol squad gone. Then another. We thought it was desertion or some local beast. But in the morning we found the bodies. Precise kills. Throats cut. No alarms raised. They struck and vanished. Do you understand? They fought us like predators." The room grew colder. Veyrak continued. "We tried to flush them out with fire. We burned the forest around the outpost. We thought they would run into the open. Instead, they used the smoke as cover. More of us died in the haze. You could not see them, only hear the crack of their rifles. One by one we fell. Fear spread through the ranks. Warriors who had never known fear before." The commander's voice dropped to a whisper. "By the 3rd night, half of us were gone. Not from open battle. From something worse. From shadows. From patience. From humans who fought as if death meant nothing to them." A shiver moved across the chamber. "They do not fight to survive," Veyrak said. "They fight to win, even if it costs them their lives. Even if they are outnumbered. They will not stop. And that is why mercenaries like us cannot match them. Because when profit meets purpose, purpose always wins." The young mercenary sat frozen, his earlier pride shattered. No one else dared speak. Veyrak's gaze swept across the table. "So listen to me well. Take any contract, fight any army, face any monster. But when the name of humans is spoken, walk away, because I have seen what happens to those who do not." The chamber fell into silence once more. Silence so deep it felt like the air itself refused to move. Outside, thunder rumbled across the skies as if echoing the warning. And in that moment, every mercenary in the room knew the truth. Humans were not prey. Humans were the hunters, and they were watching. The story spread across the mercenary hall like smoke. No one dared interrupt. The veterans had spoken, and even the boldest warriors now sat in silence. Yet still doubt lingered in the younger ones. One mercenary, a reptilian soldier with scales the color of rust, finally broke the quiet. "Perhaps you exaggerate," he said, his tongue flicking nervously. "Humans cannot be so dangerous. Maybe you faced a rare unit. Maybe they had more numbers than you knew." Commander Veyrak's eyes narrowed. "Do you truly believe that?" The reptilian hesitated but nodded. "Yes, a few squads of humans cannot defeat seasoned mercenaries. It is not possible." Veyrak turned his gaze to another veteran sitting at the far end of the table. His name was Dravos, a heavy-built alien with scars crossing his face like rivers. He had fought in dozens of campaigns. His voice was deep, and when he spoke, the chamber seemed to lean closer. "You want to know the first time I saw them?" Dravos asked. "The first time I faced human special forces." Every mercenary turned toward him. "It was on the mining world of Yatros," Dravos began. "We were hired to crush a rebellion there. The miners had refused to pay their tribute, and the contract was simple. Kill the leaders, destroy their camps, and leave their world burning. Easy work. We had more weapons, more armor, more everything. Or so we thought." He paused, his voice growing heavier with memory. "The humans were there, not soldiers from a grand army, not fleets or divisions, just a small unit of their special forces, assigned to help the miners. I laughed when I first heard it. 10 humans against hundreds of us? I thought it would be sport." No one laughed in the chamber now. Dravos leaned forward, his voice dropping lower. "The first attack came at night. We were camped near the mining tunnels, guards posted, weapons ready, and sensors watching every corner. Yet somehow they slipped past everything. Our sensors showed nothing. But then, the lights went out. Every lamp, every generator, dead in an instant. We were blind." A shiver ran through the younger mercenaries. In the darkness, they came. Not with shouting, not with war cries, silent. You didn't hear them until they were already close. I remember the sound of metal scraping, the hiss of knives, the crack of suppressed weapons. My men panicked. They shot into the dark, but it was useless. The humans moved like shadows. By the time we got the lights back, 20 of my soldiers were gone, dead, and the humans had already vanished into the tunnels. Dravos clenched his fists, the memory burning. The next day we tried to hunt them. We sent squads into the tunnels. It was a mistake. The humans used the terrain better than we did. Explosives buried in the walls. Snipers hidden in the dark. My soldiers screamed as the tunnels collapsed around them. We lost more men than I can count. And do you know the worst part? His voice shook. We never even saw them clearly. They were ghosts? The reptilian mercenary who had doubted earlier shifted uncomfortably, his tail curling in fear. Dravos's voice deepened further. By the third day, morale was gone. The men whispered at night. They said the humans were demons, not soldiers. That they could smell fear. I tried to keep order, but even I felt it. Every step in the tunnels, I thought they were behind me. Every shadow looked like a human shape. That kind of fear eats at you. It makes warriors weak. It makes killers break. The chamber was silent now, every mercenary hanging on his words. "What happened in the end?" one finally asked. Dravos looked at him, his eyes haunted. "We fled. The miners kept their rebellion. Our contract was broken, but none of us cared. We only cared about surviving. Out of 300 mercenaries, less than half made it back. And the humans? They were still there, watching from the shadows as we ran." No one spoke. Then Veyrak's voice filled the silence again, calm but sharp. "You still think they are weak? You still think they can be underestimated?" No one answered. Veyrak stood towering over the others. His voice carried like thunder. "Understand this. Humans are not the strongest. They are not the fastest. But they are the most dangerous. Because when you think you are hunting them, it is already too late. They are hunting you." The mercenaries shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The younger ones avoided the eyes of the veterans. The truth had begun to sink in. But the fear was only beginning. For outside the chamber, beyond the mercenary stronghold, the galaxy still whispered the same question. A question that no one could answer fully. Why do alien mercenaries fear human special forces? And why, even after countless battles, does that fear never fade? The chamber of mercenaries remained heavy with silence. The stories of Commander Veyrak and Dravos still clung to the air like smoke after fire. No one dared to laugh now. No one dared to mock humans. But still in their hearts many struggled to understand. They were mercenaries, warriors of different species. Some were larger, some stronger, some faster than any human could ever be. They had claws, fangs, scales, armored skin. By all natural laws of the galaxy, humans should have been weak prey. And yet, they were not. One of the younger mercenaries finally spoke, his voice low and uncertain. If humans are so dangerous, then why? What makes them different? They bleed, they die. They have no natural weapons. They should not win against us. Commander Veyrak's gaze swept over the room. His expression was cold, but his words carried the weight of truth. It is because they fight in ways no one else dares to. They have something none of us can match. The mercenaries leaned closer, every word a spark to their curiosity. Veyrak continued, "Other species fight for profit. We fight for survival. Some fight for honor. But humans fight for all of those things and more. They fight with a purpose that burns deeper than any contract or prize, and that purpose makes them unstoppable." Dravos added his voice, his tone grim. "Humans do not fight like soldiers. They fight like predators. They study you, they wait for weakness, and then they strike without hesitation. If you think you are stronger, they change tactics. If you think you are faster, they slow the fight down. Whatever you believe gives you advantage, they take it from you. That is their strength. Adaptability." Another veteran leaned forward, his eyes glowing in the dim light. His armor was dented, one tusk broken from an old battle. "Do you know what I saw once?" he said. "A human unit pinned down, half their number already dead. Any other army would have surrendered. But the humans, they laughed. Laughed even as the enemy closed in. And then, when no one expected it, they turned the battlefield into a trap. They had planted charges beneath their own position, ready to blow themselves and their enemy apart. No other species would do such a thing, but humans will. They will sacrifice everything because to them, victory is worth more than life itself." A chill spread across the chamber. The younger mercenaries whispered nervously. One of them shook his head. "That is madness. No warrior should fight like that." "To throw away their own lives?" Veyrak answered sharply. "You call it madness. I call it power. It is what makes them terrifying. Because when you face humans, you face an enemy who has nothing left to lose. And how do you defeat such a foe? How do you defeat one who will keep fighting even when broken, even when surrounded, even when death is certain?" The question hung in the air. No one answered. Dravos leaned back, his voice softer now, almost like a whisper. "They never stop. Do you understand? They never stop. They do not give up. If you strike them down, another rises. If you crush their armies, their civilians take up arms. If you burn their homes, they fight in the ashes. I have seen humans fight with rocks, with sticks, even with their bare hands. And still they win." The reptilian mercenary who had doubted earlier lowered his eyes, shame burning on his face. He could no longer argue. Veyrak's claws tapped against the table. "Do you know what makes them even more dangerous? Unity. They protect each other. Humans fight as one. When one falls, the others grow fiercer. They do not abandon their own. Even when they should retreat. Even when logic says to run, they stay. That loyalty turns them into something more than soldiers. It turns them into a force of nature." The chamber grew colder with every word. The younger mercenaries looked unsettled, their arrogance slowly turning to dread. One of them finally asked, his voice barely audible, "Then why has no one conquered them? Why does the galaxy still allow humans to live?" Veyrak's eyes glowed with something close to respect. "Because many have tried, and many have failed. Entire fleets have been lost, armies shattered, planets consumed by battles they could not win. The galaxy has learned a simple truth. Humans cannot be conquered. They can only be endured." The silence deepened. Then Dravos leaned forward, his face lit by the dim glow of the chamber lamps. "Understand this. Humans are not feared because of their weapons. Many species have greater weapons. They are not feared because of their numbers. Many empires have greater numbers. They are feared because no matter what you throw at them, They come back, again and again and again, until you are the one who breaks. A shadow seemed to fall over the room as the words settled. The mercenaries felt the weight of truth pressing down on them. Veyrak rose from his seat, his towering figure casting a long shadow across the table. His voice was calm, but it carried an edge sharp as steel. You wanted to know why alien mercenaries fear human special forces. Now you know. It is not because they are strong. It is not because they are fast. It is because they are unbreakable. His final words struck the chamber like thunder. You can kill a human soldier, but you cannot kill the human will. And that will is what terrifies us all. The chamber was silent. Outside, the storm rumbled across the sky as though the galaxy itself echoed his words. And in that silence, the younger mercenaries finally understood. Humans were not monsters, nor demons, nor gods. They were something far worse. They were survivors. And survivors never stop. The chamber lights flickered as if even the machines did not wish to hear what came next. The mercenaries sat still, their faces tense, their hands clenched against the table. The stories of humans had already shaken them, but what followed would carve fear into their very bones. A grizzled veteran at the far end of the table shifted in his seat. His name was Kalor, an old mercenary whose body bore more scars than armor. One eye had been replaced by a dim cybernetic implant, glowing faintly red in the shadows. He had remained silent until now, but his silence had not been peace. It had been restraint, like a beast waiting to be unleashed. Kalor finally spoke, his voice rough and broken, each word carrying the weight of memory. You have heard of humans as predators. You have heard of their unity. But let me tell you the truth I saw with my own eyes, the truth that still hunts me in my sleep. The younger mercenaries leaned forward, uneasy but unable to look away. It was on the ice world of Talros. Kalor began. We had been paid to crush a small resistance there. Only a handful of human special forces had been reported. We laughed when we heard it. What could a few humans do against us? We were 300 strong. We had armored transports, air support, drones to scout the ground. We thought we would sweep through them in days. His voice grew darker. The first night the cold cut deep. Snow howled through the mountains and our soldiers built fires to keep warm. We thought nothing of it. But the humans, oh, they knew the cold better than we did. They moved through it like ghosts. The fires we lit to survive became beacons for our death. Kalor's eye flickered as his voice cracked. They came without sound. A knife through the throat, a bullet through the skull. Guards who stood watch vanished into the snow before they could even cry out. By morning, 20 of our best were gone, their bodies frozen where they fell, their eyes wide, their mouths filled with frost. The chamber filled with a heavy silence. Kalor continued, his voice shaking but relentless. We thought we were clever. We placed our camps deeper into the mountains, hid ourselves inside the caves. But the humans were always there waiting. They planted traps, explosives buried beneath the snow, razor wire strung across narrow paths. Drones we sent to scout never came back. They shot them from the sky before we even saw the flash. His hand tightened into a fist, metal scraping against the table. I remember the screams. My brothers dragged into the dark tunnels. We followed the sounds, but all we found were blood trails. Nothing else. Not a single human body. Only ours. The young mercenaries shifted uneasily, their eyes darting around the room as if shadows themselves might hold hidden soldiers. Kalor's voice dropped low, almost a whisper. By the third day, fear had consumed us. We no longer marched proudly. We huddled together, watching every shadow, every flake of snow. Then came the night of fire. That night, they came for us all at once. Explosions tore through our camps. Snow turned red with blood. Their rifles cracked in the dark, and their blades glistened in the firelight. They did not fight like men. They fought like hunters, like predators who had marked us long before we ever arrived. He paused, his cybernetic eye glowing dimly, as though haunted by the images replaying inside his mind. They hunted us one by one. They whispered to us in the dark, words in their tongue that chilled the soul. They wanted us to break, and many did. Mercenaries threw down their weapons, begging to surrender. Do you know what the humans did? He leaned forward, his voice harsh. They vanished. They let us live. They wanted us broken, not dead. They wanted us to carry the story, to carry the fear. And I have carried it ever since. The chamber went utterly still. No one moved. No one spoke. Kaelor exhaled slowly, his voice bitter and tired. We began with 300. By the time we fled Talros, less than 40 remained. And not one of us had seen a human corpse. They fought us, they killed us, and they left us, but they never allowed us to see them fall. Do you know what that means? The mercenaries shivered, waiting for the answer. It means they wanted us to believe they cannot die, that they are shadows without end, and after what I saw, I almost believe it. His words struck the room like a hammer. The younger mercenaries looked pale, their arrogance stripped away, replaced by the cold edge of dread. Even the veterans, hardened by battle, avoided Kaelor's gaze as though his memories were contagious. Veyrak finally broke the silence. His voice was calm, but his eyes held the same haunted fire. And now you know why we refused the contracts. You think it is cowardice? No, it is survival. Because humans are not prey. They are not soldiers. They are the nightmare that waits in the dark. And when they come for you, no number, no weapon, no armor will save you. The storm outside roared, lightning splitting the sky, echoing the fear that now filled the chamber. And in that terrible moment, every mercenary in the room realized the truth. The humans did not need to win every battle. They only needed to leave survivors. Survivors to spread the story. Survivors to whisper the fear. And that fear was worth more than any weapon in the galaxy. The storm outside the mercenary hall raged louder, thunder shaking the walls as though the galaxy itself listened. Inside, silence pressed hard on every warrior gathered. The stories had grown darker with each voice, and by now even the boldest mercenaries had lost their pride. Yet one question still lingered, unspoken but burning inside them all. Why? Why were humans so different? Why did they inspire fear when stronger, faster, and larger species roamed the stars? The mystery gnawed at them, and finally one mercenary could no longer hold back. He was a tall insectoid, his mandibles clicking nervously as he spoke. You say they are predators. You say they are unbreakable. But how can that be? They are not the only predators in this galaxy. Many worlds breed hunters. Many armies fight with courage, so tell me, what makes humans different from the rest? All eyes turned to Commander Veyrak once more. His face was shadowed, his scars glowing faintly under the light. He did not answer at once. Instead, he let the silence deepen, forcing the question to grow heavier. Finally, he spoke. You wish for an answer? Then listen. We do not fully know. That is the truth. But there are whispers. Theories. Stories carried across the galaxy like smoke from a fire that never dies. The mercenaries leaned closer. Veyrak's voice lowered. Some say humans are what remains of an older predator. That on their world, Earth, everything tried to kill them. The beasts, the weather, even the land itself. They say only those who learned to fight, to adapt, to survive lived long enough to pass on their blood. That struggle carved them into what they are now, a species that cannot quit, no matter how impossible the fight. The insectoid mercenary shivered, his mandibles clicking softly. But another voice rose from the corner. It was Dravos, his eyes shadowed with memory. There are other theories too. Some say it is not only their past. Some believe humans are cursed, that their minds are built differently. They feel fear, yes, but they use it. They turn it into strength. They see death and do not run. They run toward it. I have seen them fight in madness with laughter on their lips, even as their blood poured from open wounds. The mercenaries shifted uneasily. Madness, courage, survival. None of it made sense, yet none of it could be denied. Then Kaelor, the scarred veteran with the cybernetic eye, let out a rough laugh, though it carried no joy. There is another whisper, one I heard long ago. Some believe humans do not fight alone. They say their dead fight with them. That every human carries the memory of 1,000 wars inside their blood. That when you face one, you face the ghosts of their ancestors pushing them forward. The room chilled at his words. The reptilian mercenary who had once doubted now leaned forward, his voice low and trembling. Are you saying they are more than mortal? Kaelor's eye glowed faintly as he stared at him. I am saying that when you look into the eyes of a human soldier, you see something staring back. Something old. Something that remembers every battle their kind has ever fought. Silence gripped the chamber again. Commander Veyrak broke it with his steady voice. The truth may never be known, but this much is certain. Whatever the reason, humans fight in ways none of us can match. They do not fear pain. They do not fear loss. And when you think you have broken them, That is when they are most dangerous, because no matter how many you kill, the rest will keep coming. Not for profit, not for glory, but because it is who they are. A younger mercenary swallowed hard, his voice shaking. Then, if they are so dangerous, why does anyone fight them at all? Why do mercenary companies still accept these contracts? Veyrak's face hardened. Greed, pride, the foolish belief that maybe this time will be different, that maybe this time humans will break, but they never do. And those who accept such contracts pay the price. The storm outside roared louder, lightning splitting the night sky. The mercenaries sat in its glow, their faces pale and tense. The weight of truth pressed down on them like a mountain. Dravos leaned forward again, his voice grim. There is something else you should know. Humans fight for more than themselves. They fight for each other. I once saw a squad that had been nearly destroyed. Only 3 of them left. They could have run. They could have saved themselves. Instead, they carried the bodies of their dead through enemy fire, refusing to leave them behind. No other species would risk everything for corpses, but humans did, and they survived. Do you understand what that means? It means even in death, their unity is unbreakable. The young mercenaries stared in disbelief. Veyrak's voice carried the final blow. So here's the mystery. Is it instinct? Is it madness? Or is it something else entirely? We do not know. All we know is that when you face humans, you face something beyond our understanding. And that unknown is why mercenaries fear them more than any other enemy. The chamber grew silent once more, as if the walls themselves refused to echo those words. Outside, the storm began to fade, leaving only the cold wind howling through the night. But inside, the mercenaries sat frozen, each one trapped in the same thought. If the humans were truly as unbreakable as the stories claimed, then perhaps the greatest mystery of all was not why alien mercenaries feared them, but why humans were not feared even more. The storm had quieted outside the mercenary hall, but inside the silence was heavier than ever. The mercenaries sat like statues, every tale of humans sinking deeper into their minds. The younger ones no longer whispered, no longer doubted. Their eyes carried only unease. Finally, one of them spoke, his voice trembling. So all these stories, all these battles lost. There must be one answer, something that explains it all. Why do humans fight like this? Why do they terrify even the strongest among us? The question hung in the air. Commander Veyrak slowly stood, his towering figure casting shadows across the chamber. He had listened to the doubts, to the theories, to the memories. Now his voice cut through the silence like a blade. The answer, he said, is simple. Humans are not feared because of their weapons. Many species have better weapons. They are not feared because of their bodies. Many species are stronger, faster, harder to kill. Humans are feared because of their will, and will cannot be measured. It cannot be broken. It cannot be conquered. The mercenaries leaned closer, hanging on his every word. Veyrak continued, his voice low but sharp. Other species fight when they believe they can win. Humans fight even when victory is impossible. Other armies retreat when outnumbered. Humans advance. Other soldiers surrender to save their lives. Humans fight until their last breath. Do you understand what that means? It means you cannot defeat them in the way you defeat us, because humans do not fight for the same reasons. A ripple of unease spread through the room. Dravos leaned forward, adding his voice. It is true. I saw it with my own eyes. A human squad hopelessly surrounded, every escape blocked. Any other army would have given up, but the humans did not. They fought like the world itself depended on them. They fought until the ground was red with blood, and when the last human fell, their bodies still clutched their weapons, as if even death could not take the fight from them. The younger mercenaries looked pale, their claws and fists clenched as though holding on to something solid to ground themselves. Kaelor, his cybernetic eye glowing dimly, let out a low growl. That is what makes them monsters. They do not fear death. They use it. They twist it. To them, death is not defeat. It is just another weapon. And how can you win against those who do not fear the one thing every other living creature dreads? The chamber grew darker, the shadows thickening as though the very walls wanted to hide from the truth. Veyrak's voice rose again, steady and final. That is the revelation. That is why mercenaries refuse to fight them. It is not about strength. It is not about numbers. It is about this: when you face humans, you face something you cannot break. They will always return. They will always rise again. And in the end, it will not be us standing on the battlefield. It will be them. The insectoid mercenary shivered, his mandibles clattering. So, they are unbeatable? He whispered. Veyrak shook his head slowly. No, they can be killed. They can be wounded. They can fall. But to defeat them, truly defeat them, you must kill every last one. You must burn their worlds, silence their voices, erase them from history. And that no empire has ever done. No army has ever succeeded, because humans do not fight alone. They fight as a people, as a species. When one falls, another rises. And another? And another? Until the galaxy itself bends to their will. The weight of those words crushed the chamber into silence. Dravos whispered, almost to himself, that is why their enemies lose. Not because they are weak, but because humans refuse to accept defeat. They drag their enemies into endless war, a war no one else can endure. Until finally, the other side breaks. Kaelor's one good eye gleamed as he leaned closer to the table, and that is why mercenaries fear them. Because we fight for credits, for survival, for greed. Humans fight for something deeper, and in the face of that, we are nothing but shadows. The chamber felt colder. The mercenaries shifted in their seats, their earlier arrogance now gone, replaced by a weight they could not shake. They had come into the meeting with pride. They would leave with fear. Veyrak looked around the table, his eyes burning like fire. Remember this. You can fight any empire. You can battle any beast. But if your contract brings you against humans, walk away, because they will not stop. They will not surrender. And in the end, it will not be your victory they remember. It will be your defeat. The storm outside rumbled once more as though echoing the truth. The mercenaries sat in silence, each one lost in thought. Each one seeing in their mind the same image. Humans, standing on blood-soaked ground, broken yet unbowed, staring down enemies far greater than themselves, and winning. The hall had grown quiet, the storm outside fading into a whisper of rain against the walls. The mercenaries sat in silence, each one trapped in the weight of the stories told that night. No one dared laugh. No one dared argue. The fear of humans, once just a rumor, had now become truth that burned into their bones. But it was not over. Commander Veyrak stood at the head of the table, his towering frame casting a long shadow across the chamber. His eyes, cold and scarred by years of war, moved from one mercenary to the next. His voice was steady, almost calm, but it carried the sharpness of a blade. You came here seeking answers, he said. Now you have them. But know this, our fear of humans is not just about the past. It is about the future. The words struck like thunder. Some mercenaries shifted in their seats, unease spreading through the room. Dravos leaned forward, his voice low and heavy. He is right. The humans, they are changing. Every war makes them stronger. Every battle makes them smarter. Each defeat only teaches them more. I have watched it with my own eyes. What they were a century ago is not what they are today. They evolve. They adapt. Faster than any species I have ever seen. The reptilian mercenary hissed, his scales bristling. Then what are you saying? That they will rise? That they will conquer us all? Kaelor's cybernetic eye glowed faintly as he answered, his voice filled with grim certainty. Not conquer, outlast, empires rise and fall. Species burn bright and vanish. But humans endure. They do not fade. They do not break. Long after we are gone, long after our armies are dust, they will still be here, fighting, building, surviving. The words cut deep. The mercenaries exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, they began to see not just fear, but inevitability. Commander Veyrak raised a scarred hand, silencing them. This is the warning you must carry. The galaxy may mock humans as weak, as fragile, as nothing but flesh and bone. But those who truly know, they stay away. They do not fight them. They do not provoke them. Because once humans are stirred, once they rise together, no power in this galaxy can stop them. The chamber darkened, shadows pressing against the walls. The air itself felt heavy as though the universe had turned its gaze upon them. One young mercenary, his voice barely more than a whisper, asked the question none dared speak. Then, if what you say is true, what happens when humans decide to stop defending and start conquering? The silence that followed was colder than any storm. Dravos's eyes flickered with dread. Kaelor's jaw tightened. The others shifted nervously, claws tapping, tails twitching, mandibles clicking. None of them wanted to answer. None of them wanted to imagine such a future. But Commander Veyrak did not flinch. His voice fell like a final hammer. Then the galaxy ends. The room froze. Veyrak's gaze swept across them all, pinning each mercenary to their seat. Pray they never choose that path. Pray they remain what they are now. Defenders, survivors, guardians of their own kind. Because if the day comes when humans turn their eyes outward, when they decide the stars themselves belong to them. He paused, his scarred face grim, his voice now a whisper that carried more weight than any shout. Then no empire, no army, no species will survive their coming. Lightning flared outside the hall, the walls trembling as if the galaxy itself echoed his words. The mercenaries sat frozen, their earlier arrogance long gone, replaced by a fear that no drink, no wealth, no bravado could wash away. They had come to laugh at old stories. They would leave with the knowledge that humans were not just enemies to avoid. They were a storm waiting to rise. And storms, once awakened, consumed everything. The rain outside turned steady, like drums beating a warning across the night. The mercenaries said nothing more. Each one sat in silence, lost in the same thought. What if the humans chose conquest? The answer lingered in the chamber long after the voices were gone. No one dared speak it aloud again.